Welcome to my 12th Recovering Through Grief podcast. My name is Annie Blue, and today is June 16th, 2023. This podcast is for entertainment purposes only. What if I told you there was a place within your DNA whose sole purpose is to trigger your awakening? What if I told you that awakening is an experience with its own mysterious timing and sequence? What if I told you that millions of children are taken on an excursion through the violently agitated underworld of the victim mentality and not given an out into the pure, clean air of freedom that is one's awakening? How is it that most innocent and open-hearted children and people can be beset by terrible trials that seemingly have no explanation? There is the premise that it is not about what happens to you, but how you handle it, your attitude. My guest today, Ileana, has been up close and personal to the, per Wikipedia, recruitment, transportation, transfer, hiding, the taking of a child for the purpose of slavery, forced work, and exploiting. When children are abducted or taken for the purpose of slavery, the stakes are raised wretchedly high, as a child often realizes they are placed in a reality in which they are always fighting for their life. Ileana's journey exemplifies the personification of what the attainment of true freedom can look like, as demonstrated with how she has handled her journey and her extraordinary attitude within her journey. Before I begin with her courageous story, I would like to introduce you to this exceptional woman by sharing her bio. Ileana is a trained Native American shaman, psychic, crystal healer, energy healer, past life regression, soul retrieval, and hypnosis practitioner. In her current practice, Ileana does energy healing, Reiki, and is a psychic who helps people to figure out their life journeys by looking at their life paths, what they would like to improve in their lives, achieve goals, create balance, and work on removing any blockages. Through self-hypnosis protocols, Ileana was able to learn much about her secret space program experiences and do memory retrievals. Ileana has recalled memories of abductions, especially since her mid-20s, when she turned 29 after her hysterectomy surgery in December 2014. She started having recall memories about being a secret space program asset, referred to as SSP. She was utilized as an asset in the Planetary Corporation's faction, in the Mars Female Cybernetics Labs and Mars bases. Her books include Ileana's Star Journeys with the UFOs, ETs, SSPs, and Past Lifetimes, Volume 1, Recruitment Serving in Planetary Corporations and Lunar Space Operations, Crystal Grids, The Art of Healing with Crystals, and How to Heal with Crystals and Crystal Grids. Welcome, Ileana. Thank you so much for your courage and willingness to share your story today.
Thank you so much, Annie. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's great. I know you're not described as a super soldier, but I would like to share an experiencer named James Rink's definition of a super soldier as a precursor to understanding your saga. A super soldier is trained most often in childhood to do military, psychic, telekinetic, or combat warfare allegedly used for nefarious elitist groups to further their global or national agenda. In most instances, the child individual is left unaware of their otherworld activities except for constant fatigue, compromised mental and or physical health, and or paranormal activity in their conscious life. Different from Manchurian candidates who are sacrificial lambs, super soldiers are used repeatedly, thus their training doesn't have a stop time, and the multitude of dollars expended to sustain this endeavor is outlandish. Per James, super soldiers are trained and can be genetically engineered from birth. The statistics espoused are that there are at least 4 million sleeper super soldiers worldwide. Most are unaware that they are being used in this way, as the amnesia walls are so intentionally intact. So Ileana, if you can, please share your story of your early years, including your initial abductions.
So I was born in Ukraine, and I had abductions from the age of 2 to 10 by reptilians. The black Drazo reptilians that are the warrior type, 14 to 16 feet tall, and the greenish yellow reptilians that are the Sharab Invictus. And they're the ones that are the experimenters. They're the ones that when the black Drazo one would come into my bedroom and take me out of my little bed, because at 2, I no longer had a crib. I had a little bed. So he would come through a black portal would open up. He would come through it, and his skin is black, grayish black. That's why they're called the black Drazo reptilians, and they have ridges on they're humanoid, but obviously reptilian face, 2 arms, 2 legs, and a black smart suit just to define the appearance. And he would come in, he would take me out of my bed. I wasn't screaming, I wasn't fighting. He would just pick me up, take me through the portal, and I would see a cavern system. It was an underground dumb space under Rostov, and that was in Russia, because Rostov is more, not Ukraine, but Russia. So he would take me through this underground cavern. The walls were rough as we're walking through the cavern as he's carrying me, but then they become smooth and metallic-like.
Wow.
And you see a dumb space where humans are working and the reptilians are in a separate area doing their own experiments. There was also this tall harvester type man with, I say harvester race because they are the ones that observe the experiments and they organize the experiments, but they don't do it themselves. He was humanoid. He had pale gray skin. He was about 16 feet tall. The Sharab Invictus reptilians, yellow-green ones, were like 12 feet. And this harvester man had a long beard, black hair with reddish highlights, just glowing eyes, like red, yellow, like almost like a demonic energy. You could feel it's not pleasant. Like it is very not a pleasant frequency coming from him. And he was just observing the experiments. He was the one that contracted the experiments to be done with these reptilians, but he acts as an observer. So when the warrior reptilian would bring me in, he would place me into this metallic chair with metallic wrist bands, I guess, go over your hands and legs, so you can't just walk out from the chair, can't stand up. They would put some kind of a nanotechnology dermally through my skin, and I would feel my blood boiling, literally, with nanotech entering the bloodstream, going to the immune system and just damaging the immune system. So you feel weak, you feel tired, you feel helpless. And they infected me with some type of a virus. After these experiences, I would become paralyzed. I would get fever, and I ended up in the hospital for almost 3 weeks with full-on paralysis, fever, and I lost consciousness. And they tested me for meningitis, for other viruses, and they did not find anything of that sort. They said, this is an unknown virus. We don't know what this is. They kept giving me fluids. They kept giving me saline because I couldn't eat. So they were just giving me saline to keep my system as clean as possible. And they just gave me nourishment through liquid food. That's when I was 4 years old. And I remember those abductions vividly. I had some cover memories of seeing black crows in my bedroom to cover up that it was the reptilians. That was the cover imprint memory as a child. So I was like always afraid of the dark, of the black void, seeing the black void. And I was not afraid of crows, but I was leery of them. And I learned about this starting in about 2012. I started getting visions of the reptilians, starting to understand that I was abducted by reptilians. I don't remember anything. I mostly remember just when I was 4 until 10. I don't really remember what they were doing to me. The same thing. I don't really go back to that, but it was from the age of 2 to 10, and vividly what happened at the years of 4 years old. I got so sick because they infested some kind of a nanovirus inside me. I also remember children being shackled to the walls and being in cages in that dark place, in that underground dumb space. The humans did nothing. The human military personnel did nothing. They were just doing their work, and the reptilians were doing their experiments. Although they are aware of the reptilians, they never interfere with anything that they did. The kids were malnourished. Some of them didn't have any clothes on. Some did. It was just a very enslavement type of an atmosphere where you cannot leave, cannot just get out and go until they return you. They've done what they want with you, then they return you home. And they wipe the memory as if energetically they wipe the memory as if nothing ever happened, but you're left sick and tired. So that's the abduction with these particular 2 sets of different reptilian species and that harvester man. I'll just call him the harvester race for definition.
That's helpful. I mean, everything that you've given is just so clear and concise. It's interesting for me to hear things like that because it's been part of my world too. So when you get to hear somebody else's experience, then there's definitely alignment. So it's totally interesting to hear the pieces but it's also, I haven't really, as much as I've heard so much of what you've shared, I haven't really spoken to somebody that had it happen in Europe. Everybody I've ever met was in the United States. So it's interesting to hear about, especially, in Ukraine and Russia. So you had something that all experiencers dream about and wish for. You had parents and grandparents that honored you authentically as a child and enabled you to speak freely of everything you were witnessing. How was your social and emotional development growing up? Did you witness side effects in your developing childhood years?
Well, my grandmother, I would tell stories to my grandmother that I'm seeing these blonde beings and spaceships, and I'm seeing the stars, and I've traveled in the stars. We didn't have a TV in 1985, despite what people think. Places in Europe, some homes didn't have TVs, not even the black and white ones. So I never got to see anything on TV. I didn't listen to the radio. I was just telling grandma stories constantly, and she would tell my mother, I don't know where she gets this. She just tells me these vivid stories of where she's been in the stars. Can you imagine a 3-4-year-old talking about these things?
Oh, sure, really.
And they didn't know what star seeds were at that time. So grandma would listen and just allow me to speak about my experiences. My mom, she didn't object to it. My dad kind of like, okay, well, she's very imaginative. She has a lot to say. Just these are her stories. we'll let her talk. They didn't talk to me about aliens, but they never stopped me, or extraterrestrials, but they never stopped me from sharing my stories
I think
and
that's
talking about
so
it.
healthy. I mean, it had to at least give you some sort of a cushion and safety.
Well, my mother's side, my grandma was psychic. Her grandmother was psychic. So my mother did understand what psychic ability is, and that it's something special, and that if a child, as long as the child is not saying that they're being hurt or something is horrible happening to them, just let the child share the experiences and let them be a child. So my parents never said anything to me that I couldn't talk about it. I had seen a white UFO with my grandfather when I was walking in the woods towards our dacha. It was like a gyroscope UFO, huge white UFO. And my grandfather, I said to my grandfather, "Look, Grandpa, there's this huge craft right above us." And he said, "Yes, there is. I see it, but don't pay too much attention to this. It's okay. What's in the skies is real. Know that it's real." I said, "Okay." And then a few years later, when I was like 4.5, I was walking with my grandmother in the park. This wasn't in the woods near the dacha. This was just in the city, Haika, in one of the parks. And I saw a silver white UFO hovering in the white sky. It was just a beautiful day. No clouds, same as when we were walking on the dacha. There was some clouds, but it was just a clear, beautiful day. And when I was with Grandma, I saw the silver disc. And I said, "Look, Grandma, there's something hovering there." And she said, "Yeah, that's not an airplane. That's something different. It might not be from this world." And I said to her, "I don't think it's from this world. I think it's from somewhere else, definitely." And she said, "There are beings that are not of this world. They do exist, and that we should be respectful of them."
Yay for her. I mean, back then, that's absolutely amazing.
Well, she was raised to believe that the supernatural existed.
Very cool.
She understood that the paranormal and the supernatural exists, and we coexist with other beings in the universe. So she had the basic understanding that there's things out there that are beyond us and not us, and that not everything is human made. So she had some understanding of it. And so that's how I was raised, to not dismiss phenomenon that I didn't understand, but to be curious and to examine and learn what's out there. So that was kind of my childhood. And when I was 6, I moved to Israel. And I kind of forgot about all of this. It just went dormant. I knew I was still being abducted, but Israel is a special place of its own, because I got to see the Temple of Solomon, where the Ark of the Covenant is hidden, like deep underground. I could feel the energy. When I stood there, there's the Weeping Wall, and there's further the Temple Mount of Solomon. So I stood up on that hill in Jerusalem, because I used to live in Jerusalem. And we went up there to see this. Wasn't interested in the Weeping Wall, went straight to the Temple of Solomon. Ooh. And I said, "There's something underground. There's an energy field. There's something being protected here." And I was 6, and I said this to my parents, and they're like, "Yeah, maybe there's something there. Don't worry about it. Let's just look at this place." And now I realize that's where the original Ark of the Covenant is still cool. It's still there, deep underground.
Just to be above that level of an energy. Wow.
Yeah, so I understand now, going back to that age, what that was.
That's cool.
And I stood above it because I lived in Jerusalem. And I went straight for that Temple of Solomon, and it felt like a very magical, ancient place.
For sure. Like some kind of just a special gift, like hang in there kind of thing. That's like beautiful to be given that, just with everything that you went through, throughout the rest of your life.
I had a normal childhood, honestly. It's like, I knew there was stuff that was beyond normal, but it didn't make me it didn't make me stand out too much because I knew something was different about me, but I never said to the other kids anything. I never said anything to my teachers at school.
Wow.
I just was a well-behaved child and adolescent, keeping the things that I knew to myself. I would tell my parents some things, that there's life on Mars, life on the moon, there's other beings living in space, and they're like, yeah, that's probable, that could be real. So they did not say anything unsupportive to me ever. It's like, it's a probability, yeah, maybe. And then when I was 8 years old, I moved to Canada.
Oh my gosh, another move.
Yeah, well, we moved around when I was young, because all those countries were going through something, always upheavals, one upheaval after another, and we did not like those energies, so we moved to Canada. And then I just grew up like a normal child, but knowing there's something special out there. I kept seeing different crafts, different glowing lights. In 2016 is when I really started seeing the crafts hanging out above my house.
Wow.
Because I remembered in 2014, after my hysterectomy, the secret space program memories of serving on planetary corporations through that quantum leap, time dilation 60 and back, that I had worked on 11 Mars bases.
Wow.
That I had worked in something that's called the cybernetics labs. I had worked on biological drug serums, creating different plasma serums for healing different things. Because when you come to Mars, the oxygen in the atmosphere is really low. Like you get an inoculation, a plasma treatment dermally, so that you get more oxygen in your bloodstream. You can breathe better. That's the first thing you get when you go to Mars on an SSP mission or a long service. Like I had the 16 back for myself.
So can you explain what 16 back in case some of the people that are listening don't know about that?
It's basically you're time dilated in a separate, it's a human timeline, but it's sort of separate from the Earth one. You're transported to Mars. It could be through a time dilation field transportation technology, because they have transportation platforms.
Like, yeah, so even thinking Star Trek for some people that it'll have.
Well, yeah,
I know it's different, right?
It's different, but Star Trek is based on this real life premise. So they have the transportation platforms with different types of crystal nacelles like bismuth, and that's near the transport pad, and it activates time dilation frequency to beam you out from anywhere they want, because they can track your soul signature and beam you out, or they could pick you up in a triangular craft or other types of crafts and beam you out and then transport you to the planet, to Mars. I would just mostly sometimes get beamed out by these transport pads or by the crafts, what you call a TR6 is the latest model.
So if you did like your 16 back, which is generally broken down into probably 320s, right?
No. I did a whole 16 back, but it was never broken in pieces.
Okay.
I had made biological drug serums, and that allows you to stay young. So I kept looking 30 constantly. I was never aging. Even though I was like in my 60s, I wasn't aging. I would look like I was 30, because I would every month inject myself dermally with a life force rejuvenator, if you will, to keep young and fresh and not age. So, and I would look at myself in the mirror and okay, I look 30, good, it's still working. Next injection next month, dermally in the skin, and it just refreshes you, heals your telomeres, and you stay looking young, and you are young. So that's some of the things I worked on, that biological drug serum type of a thing.
Wow.
I also, on the basis, I worked on creating biological human cyborgs. You have the human, right? And it's augmented with different kinds of cybernetics and implants to make the humans stronger, more intelligent, more faster, which you call super soldiers. And they had different types of implants to assist with that. So that's what's called the biological human cyborg. It's not just all metal parts and purely cyborg. It's a human biological cyborg. They have augmentation with different implants and nanotechnology. So that's the distinction. It's a human cyborg.
Have you ever gotten anything up about previous lifetimes or anything like that that support your how evolved you were with the work you did?
Yes, I remember previous lifetimes being Pleiadian, Andromedan, the L race. It's a 12th dimensional race that does not have to be in bodies. They embody the light field, so they could be just pure energetic light field frequency, but they can create human bodies and ships, bioships, and they can interact with humans. They're 12D, 12 density, so they figured out how to go beyond the human state, beyond the molecular physicality, beyond corporeal. So they're like Q beings. If you've ever heard of in Star Trek Q, they're like that, but they don't meddle in human stuff. They don't interfere with humans. They just help with wisdom and soul teaching and other things. So back to the planetary corporations. I also worked with what's called the holographic medical pods. That's the regenerative technology that age regresses you, that can heal diseases, that can find things, what's going on in your body that's out of alignment, blockages, and heal that as well. And it can time dilate you back to being younger or older to a phase. And it's connected to holographic technology. It runs on plasma and crystalline energy frequency. Some of the older medical pods are run on lasers, like literal operating laser systems. There's different degrees of these medical pods. The more newer ones are purely crystalline, some are just plasma, some combination of both. There's degrees, how many levels there are of this technology.
Oh, I bet. I would think there'd be almost 40 or so, a pretty good number. Yeah.
Well, this technology is 300 years more advanced than what humans have on Earth. That's what they've developed on Mars with the help of Nordics, because there were Nordic types in this program, Planetary Corp. 11 feet tall, 8, 10, 12 feet tall, muscular, blue eyes, blonde hair. Some of them had light brown hair. They all wore blue, silver smart suits, and I wore a smart suit on the base because it protects you from getting sick. It keeps you healthy. It rejuvenates your molecular system and physicality. It also has an electromagnetic field around it, so protects you from getting shot by projectile weapons or laser phaser weaponry. Everybody wore a smart suit because this is Mars. There's still various beings there that are not humanoid, also creatures. So for the protection and safety, everybody on the base wore a smart suit.
Wow.
And I had Neuralink implants in my brain. That's Nordic technology, nanotechnology, and fiber gold optics as well. And these Neuralink implants had energy cores inside them. I had 4 of these in my brain, and allowed me to connect with it enhanced my own psychic ability and allowed me to connect with different computer systems, holographic interfaces, just download information. And it also, I was taught through these Neuralink implants how to be a cybernetics technician. So you don't have 4 years of training, you have like a month or 2. Wow. And it teaches you everything you need to know to do your job.
Did you love it? I think I would have loved, I'm such a learner. I would have loved learning all that.
It was interesting to me, and it was kind of exciting. I wouldn't say I loved it because I knew I couldn't leave Mars and go back to Earth until then. You
were aware of that because there's so many that
yes, I was.
That Earth doesn't exist. So it's interesting.
No, this program never said that Earth never existed.
So it was cool.
Because they collect every bit of history about Earth and other planets. They have it in their holographic database.
Yay. I'm so glad to hear that.
Yeah, so this program doesn't brainwash you that Earth was blown up and you can't go home. I knew Earth was there. I just had to do my 16 back, then I would be age regressed and time dilated to go back home.
Wow.
So I was aware of Earth. I was aware that I had a human life that I would go back to on Earth. That was never hidden from me. I just couldn't go back to Earth until I finished my job.
I love that you had that kind of transparency. Well, so with doing a 16 back, when did your health issues begin and how did that unravel and show up for you?
I always had health issues since I was 4. So since what the reptilians did to me, I always was unhealthy.
Were you in and out of hospitals a lot?
When I was about in my mid-20s, I had constantly problems with bleeding and stuff. So I had a hysterectomy in 2014 so that
you were pretty young.
Yeah, well, I was 29. Honestly, I don't enjoy going into hospitals, and hospitals don't interest me. I got the hysterectomy. My health became so much better. Like I am healthy.
Good.
So that was actually, it helped my health. Getting that surgery helped me.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. So basically, it was good to get that done. It was done. I was healthy. And for me, nothing was horrible, super horrible was done to me in the program that I was in the SSP, so I don't feel like I was enslaved. And I wasn't taken into that program as a child.
I'm really glad to hear it. I mean, I'd much rather hear your kind of a storyline than any of the rest of them that are out there.
Yeah, and my soul wasn't fractured into different altars. A lot of experiencers say they have many altars and they go in and out of altars. I was always one person. I was trained as an assassin in Dark Fleet to retrieve criminals and to retrieve hardcore people who've done horrible things to get them to serve justice. That's the darker aspect of that, but I never was broken into many different personalities or altars.
Sounds like you're such an advanced being before you came down here. Like,
yeah. Well, when I was in Planetary Corp in the holographic database system, there is one faction called Shadow Guard where they do mind control and break people apart from top to bottom. Wow. Torture, physical torture, mental torture, mind control programming. So you become an MK Ultra agent, basically. Mm-hmm. I was aware, like, that's in their records, that program exists on Mars. And I was aware of it. And I said to myself, if I ever see this program, they will never break me. I actually got to see their headquarters and go into it. But I'm like, I will not be broken by these people. They cannot telepathically break me. They cannot physically break me. Even though I got to see it, I never got to experience the full torture.
I'm so glad. I mean, I seriously would much rather hear that. I don't want to know that anybody. Well, so you're going to be bringing up lunar space operations with your share. I want to give just a bit of history and understanding of another related lunar center, just to kind of give some people some sort of imaging and connection to lay a foundation for where your time and great learning was spent. The other center is called the Lunar Operations Command, as found in a publication titled Directorate of Space Planning and Analysis. This is from April 1960, and it describes Military Lunar Base Program, or SR-183, Lunar Observatory Study Volume 1, as well as many other podcast presentations that discuss this, such as Super Soldier Talk and the Red Pill Cafe, that can both be found online. So the Lunar Operations Command, which was called LOC, is a neutral area on the moon from which military forces, operations, and installations are prohibited. It is the location where SSP, or Secret Space Program personnel, conduct their meetings prior to traveling out into the solar system. It also maintains air traffic support for our solar system. A stationary base like the LOC capitalizes on the advantages of building a one location radiation shielding infrastructure that minimizes mobile transportation expenses. So it's kind of like a one-stop shop. One portion of it, LOC Alpha, manages control of all space programs traffic, which encompasses satellites for all civilian and military intelligence, secret military, NASA, other nations, and the advanced SSP. This includes the SSP assets plan scheduling and location use of LOC's center with the objective of keeping visitors and live-ins invisible from each other when necessary and possible. This comprises tracking ground-located astronomical observation posts. This also entails managing bona fide calculated times of access. This proper attention to detail alleviates any SSP vessel accidents that could otherwise be traced from live video feeds of NASA. The air traffic control coordinated effort cloaks the moon and Mars appearing only as a mirage when viewed in the air. Because of this scrutiny and monitoring, any vessels appearing on the radar are generally visible and flying with intention by those daring and flying with the expectation to be seen. This control center, designated as both air and space, also aids with the Earth Defense Grid collaboration under the auspices of the Military Industrial Complex SSP. So you've discussed some of becoming a cybernetics technician. If you can, you shared just a tiny bit, Ileana, about the Neuralink. So if you can kind of elaborate a little bit on that so people can really understand. I know they've heard some of this language through Elon Musk. And then when you describe planetary corporations, what does that exactly mean? And then if you wanted to talk about your Lunar Operations Center, so I can repeat those questions one at a time.
Sure. So the Neuralink implants are nanotechnology, also partially etheric. Like when you go to scan on an MRI, you're not going to see them because they're on a different vibration. They're 4 or 5D implants. So you're not going to see it on an MRI scan. You're not going to see it on a CAT scan. Because again, this is technology 300 years ahead of what we have. It's nothing like Neuralink, which is a microchip technology that has to go through brain surgery into your brain. Then it's connected to a battery that has to be recharged every couple of days. And it's to help people who are paralyzed or need to talk, like who've had neurological problems. That's Neuralink, Elon Musk. Neuralink is what the Nordics developed. Planetary corporations to allow you to advance and augment your psychic ability for quick processing of learned information, to download and upload large packets of information through these implants and retain that memory and knowledge. It's stored in various compartments of the Neuralink implants. I had 4 in my brain. So I had large capacity for memory storage, memory retention of the information I would download from the databases, holographic ones on these Mars bases. And I was also doing communications work, not just cybernetics tech. I can tap into any part of the databases to see tactical information, to see historical information. So these implants allowed me to also remote control and pilot different spacecraft to test out craft. And the reason why I was taken into Planetary Corp was because of my past life memories as Pleiadian and Andromedans, designing spaceships that had crystalline technology in it and could go and travel beyond the speed of light, faster than the speed of light. They wanted to look at these memories through the memory engram stations that have a type of a visor on it. You sit in it and it scans your past life memories, not just your current life, but other lives you've had. It looks for certain segments of this crystalline technology, how it works, what it does, what kind of crystals are used, and how to implement it with nuts and bolts and metal ships, how to try to integrate the crystalline technology. They didn't really get it right the first time, because you can't really integrate something into nuts and bolts. You have to replicate a full ship without any separate parts to put crystalline technology into it. It took them years to get this right, and they would look through my memories over and over again. That's why they took me, and because I had psychic ability and could process a lot of information and was patient. And I like genetics. I also did genetic projects working in the cybernetics labs, splicing human and ET DNA together and actually trying it on myself. I would actually morph into other humanoid extraterrestrials. Skin would change, height. Molecular structure can easily be changed with genetic modification into other humanoid ETs who have the same humanoid basic template, but they might look different. They have different characteristics of DNA. As long as it's equivalent to human, it will match up genetically. It will change you. It can make you bigger, smaller, taller, like change your features, enhance your psychic ability when you get an infusion of ET DNA. It's something else I did in these cybernetics labs, these types of experiments, not just age reversing process or the medical pods. So Planetary Corporations is literally a military corporation that designs advanced technologies for improving their own infrastructures. They have no intention of giving any of this technology to the humans. Zero. They do it for their own strength. They do it for their own infrastructure, so they're not even dependent on Earth. They have a full infrastructure, their own programs. I'm sure there's more than 11 bases on Mars. I was just on 11 bases that they run. It's their property. They run them. There's food, there's shelter, your clothing is provided, the smart suit is provided, replicator technology is there, you're fed, you're kept comfortable. If you need to be in a room of your own with a small lounge, bathroom and a bedroom, that's what you have for quarters if you don't want to bunk with a bunch of people. Because some people bunk, they do the general living quarters where there's 12 people together. Those that don't feel comfortable with that, they get their own small quarters.
That's nice.
Yeah, it also depends on the work you do. If you're lower ranking, you're doing the bunking. If you're higher ranking, you might get your own quarters. But they feed you, there's cafeterias there, there's holo recreation centers. When you have a bit of time off from this work, you can go relax a little bit. There are recreational areas. There is domes on Mars. Everything is in electromagnetic dome systems to protect you from the harsh environment of the planet, because it's still low oxygen. They're now trying to do some terraforming and to actually start getting tree sanctuaries going with large trees. The soil, there's something in the soil on Mars that makes everything grow twice the size of Earth, trees and mushrooms. But they have biodomes where there's food growing with aquaponics and hydroponics. There's gardens, there's animals, there's lakes, there's a miniature sun system. So you feel like there's oxygen in these biodomes, park areas, recreational areas, where you feel like you're home. You wouldn't know the difference when you're inside these biodomes. And there's the workstations, there's the work personnel areas where the labs and other types of communication systems on the basis, meeting areas, cafeterias. So and there's levels. These bases are not small. There's several levels to them. And some of it, research labs underground, even in the underground installations. So it's all shielded by that electromagnetic field. So if there's a meteorite or if there's a satellite or something, space junk, cannot penetrate the outer layer of the dome. shield that's protecting the bases, right? And it's made of some metallic parts, some your typical, I guess you could call it regolith. It's not cement like what we have here. It's hardier material. So that's kind of like a material that's can withstand the time, the ravages of time.
Well, with 300 years to move it along, they
so the bases don't decompose like houses here on Earth. It's not built of brick and mortar or wood. It's different material. And it's all invisible, so you can't see it on satellite or radar because there's holographic technology protecting the domes of these bases. Some of them are built in craters, some not on the craters. It depends what the facilities do. And planetary corporations did train me in laser weapons, phaser, swords, plasma swords, laser swords. You get your basic Viking battle ready training. You carry a phaser with you. You wear the smart suit even inside the base. So you are battle ready trained. I was never a super soldier. I was never put in field missions, only when I was trained as the Assassin and Dark Fleet on their various ships. But when I was doing Planetary Corp, I never did field missions. I was on the bases in the labs. So that's pretty much that type of work. Then there's lunar space operations. That's before going to Mars. I did 2 years on lunar space operations. And it has several bases on the moon. It has mining facilities and the asteroid fields as well. This is the place where you get trained about what type of ETs you could encounter when you are serving out in space. It's a preparatory base to get you ready for life in space. It's on the moon. They have several bases. That's why I call it lunar space operations, because it's more than one base. It's kind of circular modules that are stacked together in levels.
I don't think I've ever seen it in anything. If you have any pictures, send them along, and so we can include them, because I don't think I've ever seen it.
Yeah, I have pictures.
I may have seen it with your pictures that you put on other things now that I think about it.
Yeah, I can send you a few pictures of that, of course. And it's like white grayish looking, these modules connected together. They have like 42 levels on each base, from 42 to 52 levels. And again, protected by, some of it is protected by dome systems. It depends where it's on which side of the moon, because there's the light side of the moon, there's the dark side of the moon. So basically I did 2 years there preparing to do work on Mars. They have their own databases about all the extraterrestrials, their cultures, their histories, the languages, the foods, the etiquette, the decorum, how they dress, how you're supposed to behave when you meet them or see them. So they teach you everything, as well as what's out there in space, what you can encounter. So lunar space operations is like a place of where they prep you.
That's really impressive. I mean, that's fabulous to hear that there's something like that out there, and also just to get to be so prepared. So of those 2 years versus the cybernetics, which did you favor?
I didn't favor one or the other. I thought it was all experiences that taught me something interesting about life.
Oh, I love it. I love to learn.
Yeah, and people ask me, why don't you feel resentful about any of this? I was never mistreated super badly like others were. If I tried to turn off my Neuralink implants, it would cause nosebleeds or seizures because it's like a neural system in your brain, right? That's the only drawback of Neuralink implants. And when I was out of the secret space program, they malfunctioned. And I had nanotechnology, nanofiber gold leaking in my brain. So this is when I connected to my healer aspects of what the Arcturians would call energy healing and psychic surgery. And I actually excised and removed energetically the Neuralink implants, because I was given a choice in 2017, go back to Mars, have the Neuralink implants recalibrated by the Nordics for the frequency to function, so the implants wouldn't cause inflammation in my brain, wouldn't cause my brain to explode, go back working for the programs. I said, no, thank you. I don't want to go back working for you. I did my 60 and back. I'm not interested to be re-upped, I thought, I can get rid of these implants myself. I had learned energy healing, Reiki. Like I had that healer background already in the shamanism.
Foundation, yeah.
So I just got more upgrades. Like I worked with a species called the Calypsirae, who are Pleiadian gray hybrids. They're not pure grays. They have pink skin. They look somewhat like grays, but they're not. They sent me these interesting psychic surgery maps and where the implants were and healing symbols and frequencies, how to disconnect everything from these implants and remove them. People say never work with the grays, never do anything with the grays, but not all beings are pure grays.
Right.
These ones were Pleiadian gray hybrids, and they taught me a lot about healing. So I got these implants removed myself with the psychic surgery.
How long a process was that for you?
It was a week. It was a week's worth of process.
I thought you were going to tell me something like 4 years. Wow.
No. I didn't have 4 years to remove these implants. My brain would have.
It's true.
Basically, like being super inflamed, and I could have died from neurological damage.
What did it feel like?
Well, it felt like my brain was exploding and I was losing my cognitive ability. I was starting to almost feel like I was blind and I couldn't process neurologically. Like I was starting to have memory lapse issues. So I trusted these beings. They gave me schematics how to remove these implants. So I did that. But then I had brain scarring and I had white matter brain lesions, and I still had the cognitive issues from the brain inflammation from these implants malfunctioning and refusing to get them recalibrated by Planetary Corp. So this is when I started doing the hypnosis, because I was taught by my shaman teacher, Leonard Howell, how to do self-hypnosis. And I perfected the techniques. And I also changed that technique to do hypnosis on other people for memory retrieval and some basic healing.
That's great.
I choose to treat hypnosis more so for memory retrieval, but sometimes I weave in the healing, depending on what the person's needs are. So I started to do the self-hypnosis on myself, what I was trained to do, changing the protocol to improve it, of course. And that's when I figured out I had a lot of medical knowledge from Planetary Corp, what I did in the cybernetics labs, the plasma treatments. So I started infusing myself with human plasma to reverse the lesions in the brain scarring of those lesions.
How did you do something like that?
I just accessed the medical knowledge of the plasma treatments I would synthesize and replicate on Mars, what I was studying about plasma. Here on Earth, you can't synthesize human plasma just yet from a replicator and just germinally inject it into yourself. You have to infuse yourself with human plasma that's separated out from the blood. So basically, blood banks create human plasma and blood for infusion. I do the human plasma, and that has removed the white matter lesion scarring in my brain.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like you had so many positive, considering the depth of what you did. You really had a lot that supported you with more of a graceful experience.
Well, I would say knowledge is learning. Knowledge is power in its own right when you use it properly. If you use it for healing and you don't use it to destroy anything else, that kind of medical knowledge can be very powerful. And I was able to access it through memory retrieval into self-hypnosis in my protocols. And I developed a memory retrieval course, which has helped some people retrieve their own memories based off of the hypnosis, based off of those techniques. So I find it very empowering when you start remembering all these things on your own. When I got the hysterectomy, I got memories coming in on their own. But to get that extra stuff, the medical stuff, and more vivid explanation of all these terms, I did the self-hypnosis. There's also something called the time corporations, which is the time police, who police anything you do with time travel, with the time travel technology that the programs are given. So they police that. And Time Corporation, basically, they're the offshoot of the Atlanteans who left Earth and developed Time Corp to make sure the humans don't do anything bad to ruin time, the timelines, that the SSPs don't do anything that will destroy the fabric of our existence. And just to police all the programs.
Mm-hmm. So mediators, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So I recently heard Dr. Trebingham of Spinal Resonance Chiropractic that he said that in the 1980s, 1 in 10,000 children were diagnosed autistic. Now the stats are 1 in 38 children. So it went from 1 in 10,000 in 1980 to 1 in 38. Did you get to learn anything related with the SSP work about autism?
No. Autism can be because of certain things injected into people that cause biological changes. That can be autistic, born because of that. Or some people are born autistic because their soul is vibrating at a different field than the human body. So it might not match completely in the body that they're in because they have a higher soul capacity. So the frequency has to be adjusted. There's many different reasons why. I have worked with autistic people, and I know that there could be multiple reasons why somebody could have autism.
Okay, I was just curious because I just wondered if they had gone into, they were so far evolved, but even if they probably were so past autism, even being in their arena, because they were that far evolved.
I didn't see anybody that was autistic, like expressing autistic tendencies. Anybody in Planetary Corp, they had Neuralink implants to telepathically talk to each other and access all the systems. So that basically heals anything that you have of neurological problems. It heals that as long as the implants are calibrated correctly to the frequency in your brain and they don't malfunction. Even things that are 300 years more advanced can malfunction and need recalibration, energetic frequency recalibration to work correctly. But those implants would have fixed anything of the nature of autism because your cognitive abilities are very strong with the implants. So it does fix things that are neurological issues.
But creates that dependency. And see, what I loved about what you've done is you stepped outside of all of that. So you didn't allow that dependency to be a part of the rest of your life. So
I knew these implants could kill me and that they were not working properly. And I didn't want to take the time to recalibrate them myself because I wanted them gone.
Right. That's fabulous. So how did your secret space program journey influence not only your biology, but your destiny? Keeping in mind that you call yourself a star traveler on your website and all that you are part of to be here on Earth at this time, participating in, I consider, a highly impactful way. The positive byproduct of all you learned and participated in assisted you in discovering for yourself your self-hypnosis and other modalities. So do you want to even talk at all about the healing? Like you shared that you teach people self-hypnosis. Is there anything else you want to discuss that has helped you heal yourself that you offer and can teach in curriculum?
I do teach people how to do hypnosis. I also do hypnosis sessions for people. So I do various hypnosis sessions to help people with sometimes healing or memory retrieval. I like to empower people to learn hypnosis so they can go at their own pace and discover things for themselves. That's why I did the memory retrieval course and the hypnosis stuff. So people have options in what they want to be trained in and how they want to recover their memories, because the techniques have been developed into specific protocols for what you're going for to do. I think it just helps you to understand who you are as a living being, because hypnosis can help you to go into your past lives. Hypnosis can help you to go into discovering who you are right now. If you've had supernatural, paranormal experiences with ET contacts, abductions, the SSP stuff, hypnosis can help you figure all that out, as well as the memory retrieval course. I think it just empowers you to understand yourself as a whole living being and how things fit into different categories of your experiences, what happened first, second, third, so you're no longer confused about who you were in these experiences. It gives you clarity and it gives you your power back.
Oh, totally. Yeah, it's beautiful. So you talked about, some of the, with what you were sharing before, would you have called it a portable jump gateway station?
The station that teleported me from Mars back home and from home to Mars, yeah, I would call it a portable teleportation station. And they're not huge. They are like a transporter. And I also was abducted into Area 51, and they have these transporter pads.
Right.
And I did genetics there. So they took me because of my ability to splice human ET genetics together. They had what's called regeneration tanks with white plasma in it to grow clone bodies and to grow different hybridized bodies. That's an S1. It's called Bioengineering Underground Laboratory System, S1 through S6, and they do reverse engineering of different crafts that have crashed, been retrieved, or shared through these programs in Area 51, a huge underground complex system. So my experiences have included many different things.
Oh, wow.
I was also sent to Antarctica to study the Atlantean outposts and their space building ship facilities.
Wow.
I studied what I term the Neuralink chairs, that and it could look like a metallic object or a metal object or even rock object. You sit in it, the hieroglyphics activate, and it allows your thought consciousness to connect with the holographic aspect of the technology or whatever interface it has. It allows you to see events, like it's almost like mind time dilation, going back in time or in the future, seeing how events unfold. You'd call it like a chronovisor technology, but much more advanced.
Oh, wow. More advanced than chronovisor. Wow.
Yes, much more advanced.
I guess in Antarctica, I guess I'm not surprised.
Yeah, and this is ancient Atlantean technology. They had outposts in Antarctica, like they had outposts in many places on the continents. Atlantis goes back to 2 million years ago. It's much older than what people think. Yeah. And these Neuralink technologies, these Neuralink chairs or trip chairs, they allow you to open portals as well with your mind and stabilize portals and travel from point A to B on the planet or off planet. So I got to see this technology in person. Wow. When I was sent to Antarctica. This is when I was released from the 60 and back from Planetary Corp. Antarctica was like my final mission. And I just remember wearing a smart suit so I didn't feel cold, and I had a laser sword. Because in Antarctica, you're not supposed to use projectile weapons. There is a lot of electromagnetic frequency that interferes with physical weapons, but it doesn't interfere with plasma swords or laser swords. Wow. And sometimes there's reptilians in Antarctica. So they're also out there. And other beings, they have bases there underground and a cloning facility, apparently. So there's a lot of things going on in Antarctica that we're not being told about. as well as ancient technologies.
So with with the teleportation platforms, is that how they got kids, off planet without detection? Were there other apparatuses that they used for that?
Yeah, it's teleportation pads, time dilation technology on spaceships that can beam you out. There's many different ways of beaming you out, and there's physical abduction, human trafficking as well. So there's a lot of different ways they can take kids, and they just mind wipe their memories so they don't remember anything.
Yeah.
Some of them are returned back home, and some are not. Some go missing. There's Canada 411, America 411, David Pilatus, that discusses how people go missing, never to be found again. Some of them go missing through portals, like natural portal systems. Some of them are abducted into these programs. There's many different ways. There's not just the portal platform stations, but actual people with abilities to open portals and come and take you. And ETs have abilities to open portals. Some of them are positive ones, some of them are not so positive. There's different types of ETs that do different programs and things.
Wow. Well, so with your extraordinary scholarship and amazing intellectual ability, how did you fit into the normal education system? I would have think you would have been tested out as gifted plus. Did you actually? You were able to integrate in regular high school, and did you go to college?
I didn't go to a regular high school. I went to a high school that is for the gifted.
Okay.
It had advanced enrichment programs. I hated math. I hated gym. I would not even show up to those classes. So I was given a proposition to sign up for classes that I would enjoy doing to pass high school, because didn't care for the math, didn't care for the gym. Those were all boring things to me. I felt useless. Took a lot of art classes. I took a lot of history. I took a lot of earth science. Took a lot of computer courses in high school because I was interested in higher thought pattern concepts and art.
Was it a pretty small in population, the school?
It was a big school. And I took.
It wasn't public though; it was private, right?
No, it's private, public school, but it's one of the schools that had an enriched English program, math program. Took enriched English. I took enriched sciences courses. I took language. Enjoyed Spanish. Hated French. Enjoyed Spanish quite a bit. It just didn't resonate with the French. But loved Spanish because in Dark Fleet, they spoke Spanish quite a bit. So Spanish was my language more so than French. Canada, French is a second language for me. It was just boring. I not want to learn French.
I took a lot of French. Well, you're really kind of keying into my greatest fantasy. I mean, you're everything you've gotten to do as far as all the learning that you've gotten exposed to. I mean, that's like I have a hermit within me, so I would have loved everything you've learned.
Well, let's just say in school, it was my choice or no choice at all. I would not bow down to teachers and counselors and principals. Anybody who tried to make me fit into somewhere I wasn't, I was like, I'd just walk out of the class and not come back. And then they would call my parents 2 days later to ask, why didn't she show up for math and gym? And my parents like, well, she's not interested. She doesn't want to do that. She's not going to show up for any of that if she doesn't want to show up. She's not the kind of person to be made to do something if it's not working. So I made a deal with the counselor because this was a school for the advanced. They figured out other ways to help me out to go to school, to be interested in school. So I did graduate with a high school diploma. I went to library school for 2 years to be a library technician, not librarian, just library technician. I took other business courses at another university to be a supervisor. So I have a lot of interests. I took a lot of healing courses, crystal courses, shamanism, magic, white light magic.
You got into all that like pretty young. Like, was it in your early 20s?
Yeah, my mid-20s, I would say.
I think that's so cool that you were so, I mean, that, you know, I've known about you for a long time, and I'm astounded at all that you've put together, you know, since your early to mid 20s. I mean, this whole website and all the different curriculums that you offer and all your abilities that you have done as a woman entrepreneur all by yourself is just, it's amazing. I would, you know, you can feel very, very proud, because I've gotten to watch you, and you just continue to flourish and also put out so much effort and time out there in the community to give this kind of data and information to people. And it's, you know, thank you for that.
What these SSP programs has taught me to expand the multi-talent to your highest capacity, because they never put limitation on my talent ability to do any work I wanted to try. So I was not limited in these programs. And this taught myself to have a backup plan for a backup plan and a contingency for a contingency when back on Earth, to be my creative self, to be multi-talented, if you will. So to use all ability that I have.
So with the abilities you had, were you able to control what people call flooding? I mean, I know there's so many people that are multiple personality or have alters or have parts. And there can be times when it just all comes flooding in. With your abilities, were you able to kind of dilate it and calibrate it so that you didn't get slammed with, because, you know, when you do, it'll knock your feet out from you.
I had the memories come in parts and bits and pieces, so I wouldn't say it overflooded me.
You never got that? Wow, that's amazing.
No, I'm a controlled person emotionally and physically, so I don't let just anything flood me or overwhelm me. If I don't like something, I work on healing it, balancing it, so it is in balance. I don't step out of control. I'm in control. That's what the programs taught me, to be in control of myself.
That's amazing. Well, and you also got to actually witness what that feels like. If we have that kind of experience, which is what we're here to do, is have experiences, you know, then you have that modeling, you have that template to be able to put that into action. But so did you go through grief then? How did grief portray in your life? Like, were there times when you cried? And
I don't cry much. I don't spend time on.
Yes, you would. That's my.
I don't cry. I don't spend time on something that was or has been. What I've done is what I've done. I've learned from it. I just don't have time to cry. I don't have time to reflect on grief and pain. It's part of life experience, so I just try to incorporate it and learn from it. Just understand what happened to learn as a life experience. I don't really see grief as something that I need to cry over or spend much time on. I don't have much time to spend on that. I keep going forward. I don't go backwards. So I wouldn't say great grief. Like, I've experienced maybe moving from country to country when I was younger, and just spending a lot of time on trying to put down roots. But honestly, I've gone past that and worked through it and healed through it. So I don't really have grief now. In terms of trauma, everybody has life trauma experiences. It's like how you deal with it and not fall apart or you do fall apart and you need healing. It depends on the person. For me, I think I worked through any trauma that I've had. So for me, it's like not really an issue anymore.
So you really,
at this point,
probably didn't have any phobias or anything, did you? When you first witnessed that, you know, the neural links, you know, I
don't have any phobias about the programs. I have phobias about butterflies, large butterflies, because when I lived in Israel, I saw this large insect with huge wings crossing the street. So it's like, I would say it's something between a locust and a large-ass moth, something. I just said that. So that's my only phobia. Anything like that crosses the street, I might just go, ugh. You might see a facial expression. That's the only phobia I have, really.
I mean, it just feels like you're so spiritually mature and so evolved, to have even come here to Earth. Like, do you recall your choice to come here to Earth?
Yeah, it's a very personal choice. I came to save somebody as part of a soulmate family connection. Yeah, but
it had to be a huge step down, was it?
Yeah, I didn't want to come here, honestly. I'm not supposed to be here, but while I'm here, might as well disclose some things, have an experience, do my best that I can. It wasn't a personal choice to come here again, because I've had many lifetimes on Earth, and I'm used to 5D and higher. 3D is kind of a step down, but
for sure, compressing.
Yeah, but it allows you to learn some good, interesting life experiences and lessons. And also to empower yourself to know who you are as a being. Because here in 3D, you really get to know who you are with things that are compressed and kind of blanketed in ability. Because not all of it is active. And you're outside of 3D, a lot of your ability is activated when you're in 3D. It's tamped down and you feel it like through a sieve. It's more denser. So it's
like
sometimes harder to access for some people. 3D life is for those that are corporeal. Non-3D life is more non-corporeal if you want it to be, to understand how you can go in between corporeal and non-corporeal and how energy works. I know how it works. And so this is my last 3D lifetime. I don't plan to be back here ever again.
Well, I will say that we were lucky to have you be here. I'm sorry for the circumstances, and that it caused you to come down here to this kind of compression. But for those of us that have learned from you and all that you are teaching and will continue to teach, those are the lucky instances for people like us that get to experience it.
Well, I had a partial choice. I chose to come here to retrieve someone. Mm-hmm. But this planetary system and this universe has universal laws. If you're coming to retrieve somebody on this Earth planet, you kind of need to interact with the humans and do a lifetime. You can't just come, get what you need, and leave. That's not how it really works in this physical laws of this planet. You would think otherwise, but it's not like that.
Wow. Well, it must have been pretty big that you went ahead and did something like that.
I would say I really felt compassion towards somebody else, and I chose to help somebody else out, not just look out for my own interests and myself. But that's showing selflessness. Right. When you come back for somebody and try to help somebody that got stuck here, despite you saying, don't go here, there's going to be stuff happening here, don't do it. They did it because they wanted to help, but they didn't fully understand what they were walking into. So that's on my website. It's kind of like a personal experience. I came here to get somebody, but I needed to come in a physical lifetime to remember what this mission was and to do it, to experience it. I think that taught me how to be more humble and selfless, not just service to self, service to others. Really helped me learn that concept and humbleness, this experience of this lifetime. That's the greatest lesson I've learned here.
That's a nice honing to be able to bring in that humility. That's, as good as it gets in my belief. That's
yeah. I wouldn't say I would choose this physicality ever again.
Oh no! Well, I've always said I want my money back.
Well, as they say with the extraterrestrials, I want my energy back and I want my light body back. Yeah. There's no money in the higher density. There's just give me my energetic body back. I just want my body and my powers back. Not a 3D physical body, but the energy light body and the Merkaba field and your abilities activated. That's the higher densities, what you experience up there. So I would say this physical experience in this lifetime has been a wonderful life lesson, not to be repeated ever again.
I totally believe that. So a lot of the super soldier and secret space stuff, when they first started out, they were very inefficient and archaic. And there was a program that they came along with later on called the Project Moon Shadow. Were you part of that?
No, I don't think so.
It was okay. It was in 1967. And
I wasn't born there. No, I know with time travel, they can time dilate even your soul into other bodies. But no, I was not part of that. I was born 1985. So I would say I'm in the 1980s programs where they started building bases on the moon and on Mars, like the good bases with electromagnetic domes. You got to see the good stuff. But Project Horizon, Project Moon Shadow, those were the beginnings of building underground basic bases, modular systems with V5 rockets delivering supplies to build that on the moon and Mars. Werner von Braun, Project Paperclip. I think that is connected to Project Horizon and the other projects, the earlier ones. Because
at least you made a good decision in when you somehow chose to come here, that you bypassed all of that, archaic stuff that was really just insanity plus.
Well, I'm used to advanced tech, that replicators, flying cars, flying saucers, energetic bodies. This right now, even to me, is archaic. What we have.
For sure. I can't even imagine. I met somebody probably 25 years ago that had designed the hovercraft, and they made promises, but they basically shut him down. So it's interesting how much stuff was back there. So was there a light bulb moment for you in which your life felt different in a good way? I mean, it seems like you've had such an upper hand on your life throughout it all, just because of the progression of the evolution of who you are when you even came here. But was there a point at which, like, what caused you to start going out and doing your podcast? How long ago did you do those?
I always knew that I had to I've been doing this for almost 10 years now. I've always known that I need to disclose the truth so people are aware of these programs and what's happening. And so you can call me the early rebel, the rebel with a cause and without a cause. I just started talking about what's happening to me, not filtering the experiences, just the dark, the good, and the bad, and everything in between, just being very frank with the experiences, and not holding anything back. I mean, look what's happening now.
Finally.
There's a whistleblower named David Grush that just came forward saying that there's reverse engineering programs that the government has been hiding from us, the deep government, the shadow aspects of the military, that there's these reverse engineering programs and crash site retrievals of extraterrestrial crafts, non-human origin, that they had pilots and bodies retrieved from these crash sites, Area 51 and other bases, 145 bases, Black Ops military and other things, that this is all real. He's come forward. I think he had a lot of help with Dr. Stephen Greer, who helped him out, coached him, read him in on a lot of these UAP programs and non-access programs. I could see the coaching. Like, I could see who this data came from, Stephen Greer.
Cool.
Because he's helped to coach whistleblowers, and he's helped to encourage whistleblowers to come forward and to draft that whistle protection law into Congress and Senate. So even though they still have to disclose in classified SCIFs, it's still classified, but the public is starting to hear about it and they're coming forward. So David Grush is like the first experiment, I would say, to see how this works. He seemed confident when he came out and spoke out. He just seemed like he was prepped. He was told a lot about this secondhand. He didn't see it himself. He was told about these programs on Earth, the shadow programs and the Black Ops, and it's interconnected to the secret space programs off-world. So there's phases of disclosure we're in. We're in the first phase of this, what happens on the ground here on Earth.
Well, it feels like the whole, within where you a lot of the podcasts you participate in and the different conferences and stuff, it definitely feels like there's a pretty good expansion going on where there's a lot more people ready to hear it and experience it and get to hear what everybody has to share.
Yeah, and I was told by Time Corp to release my book about Area 51 about what's happening in Antarctica May 31st and June 1st, to have the book and the videos out, because cool. I was told that something that's in your remote viewing project, recent one, will be public knowledge. It will be huge. What was in my recent remote viewing book is that there's reverse engineering programs of extraterrestrial crafts and crash site retrievals, but this has been going on for 40, 80 years on Earth.
Right.
And that the US and Russia are involved in that, in doing this secretly. I was like, well, that's one thing on the list. I didn't know it was that, but I was told to put this book out and the video out about it, because I have a huge broad list of what was remote viewed, and that's one of the most important things on that list again. And then June 5th, David Gresh says, yeah, I know about these reverse engineering programs and crash site retrievals of non-human crafts and non-human intelligences and bodies. This is splashed on the debrief with the article by Leslie Keane and Ralph Blumenthal. And then I guess Ross Coulthard interviewed David Gresh about all of this. And David said, well, you know, the DOD cleared me to talk about these things. I can tell that David Gresh is trained to do this. He's trained to disclose things, and he's been sworn in what to disclose and how. There's training. I could see that this is...
They'd have to. They'd have to prep them and get into a pretty strong place to be able to do this.
I can see, I can see the influence of Stephen Greer. Mm-hmm. It's like you know the vibration and who's briefed who on what and how. It's just is plain to see. This is Stephen Greer's project. Mm-hmm. And he's trained other whistleblowers who have come forward. And he recently had a disclosure conference, a National Press Club release. And he's talked about UFO crash sites retrievals and all the other things that we need to have 0-point technology and energy healing technology come out.
Yes. So we can get all the different type equipment that you got exposed to.
Yeah, exactly. So I think even though that Stephen Greer doesn't talk about the secret space programs, he is talking about what's happening here on Earth and underground and what's happening in space, because it's all interconnected. We need 0-point technology. We need clean energy to clean up the pollution, to remove the war, the disease, the famine, the greed. So he's at least incorporated that into this disclosure. Get this started, its first phase of it, and to see how humans will react to that. It's a call to action, this phase. Mm-hmm. So I've been seeing this for various couple of weeks, and it's just been exciting. This book that I've released, it's my own form of disclosure, knowing what I know that's supposed to come out in the timeline, because I saw a lot of timeline pieces through planetary corporations' databases on the Mars bases. Like they have huge holographic systems with even how timelines will appear and how things could happen. And that's connected to time corporations because they know timeline sequencing, how things will happen. And they said to me, we can't tell you what's going to happen in June, but you must need to have these books out by certain dates. And the reverse engineering of the spacecrafts, non-human spacecrafts, and the crash site retrievals, that 40, 80 years, and the technology that's involved, that was in my remote viewing. Plus the Antarctica stuff that people are talking about was in the remote viewing. So I was like, oh yeah, that's happening right now, real time. And I disclosed it in my own way, through the videos, through the books, so people have learning materials to learn about this stuff. Yeah, because multiple people will speak out about this in their own ways and disclose, some more publicly than others, and some through different platforms and means, but this is not going to stop. This will continue.
when you offer in your book, so many great pictures for people to get to see, I think it's enticing, for people to go ahead and read your book, because it's helpful to see the pictures. You can take it. We're so visual. You can take it in a different way, and it's not going to be so raw for people to start seeing the things that they're going to start seeing. So it's neat. I highly advise anybody that's been interested in everything that we've shared today to definitely check out your books. So is there anything else you can think of that you want to share? This has been so comprehensive. I'm so grateful.
Mm-hmm. Allow yourself, if you have memories of something that's happened to you, allow the healing to come in. Allow yourself to experience what happened to you, understand it. Mm-hmm. And if it's something traumatic or it had grief in it, heal it. Allow it to heal through it. Because oftentimes memories come up for us to understand something profound about ourselves. Mm-hmm. And I can't imagine being a normal human, because I'm more than that at this time. Even my genetics, the Pleiadian, the Andromedan genetics, and the L-race genetics, working with the Arcturians to learn more energy healing, like quantum healing, it has activated this extraterrestrial genetics that's part of me from my past lifetimes. Things are activating energetically. Our DNA is activating. Our soul path evolution is activating. Allow yourself to not be afraid of that and to embrace who you truly are, galactically and humanly.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yay, yay. I hope everybody just goes all the way through to the end just to get this last piece, because it's just, it says it all. It's where we're at. We're master creator beings. Let's step into the gloriousness of who we are and all our abilities. It's going to make everything so much more enjoyable. So in closing, as we move out of the Piscean age and into the Aquarian age, we are transmuting the vibration of our spiritual and intellectual minds, leading us out of the wilderness into a place of greater self, as you so beautifully portray, Ileana. In such hectic times, we hunger for meaning and guidance amidst these sagas of child exploitation, forced work, and enslavement. Those like yourself, Ileana, who work to surpass these egregious acts, demonstrate self-determination, fulfillment, and enjoyment. As ones such as yourself widen and enlarge their psychic abilities and awareness despite all the ordeals directed at them during such a key developmental time of their life, it is influential to witness experiencers dedicated to self-healing tune more and more into our evolutionary function as cosmically activated electromagnetic generators, stabilizing and lifting the collective frequency of awareness. Thank you so much for coming today. I am so grateful. There's just so much within this. It's one of those podcasts where you could probably listen to it about 3 times to really take in everything that was offered. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, and I hope people will check out your newest book, because there's just so much in it, and it just creates an excitement for what we have to look forward to and all that we get to step into. And we've got a lot that's coming our way.
Yes, self-discovery is so beautiful when you learn who you truly are and you express your truth and your genuine creative self. Like, be in your self energy of creativity and exploration. I think that's the greatest gift we can give ourselves at this time.
It's just, you wake up every day just joyous, just because you're just so happy to be here and be on Earth. So yeah, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to connecting with you again soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, dear sweet. Thank you.
Bye.